Strange as it may seem, there is no harvesting of wild rice on Rice Lake. Our Alderville First Nation people make their way east and north to a special area each fall to take part in the harvest. 4 generations ago, seed was brought to that area from Rice Lake, and the rice beds have multiplied to become abundant. We share in the harvest because that original seed came from our area.
Usually the girl does the gathering with the sticks like you're doing, and the guy paddles, because quite often it's hard paddling, depending on how thick the rice is. If I was to bring the paddle through like this, it would knock all the rice off, so I take and raise the paddle up and drop it in like this without disturbing the stock. Take them about there, and you, instead of hitting them this way, if you hit them this way, they'll bounce and they'll flop back out. So you sort of shave them this way. If you come in too close to the boat, they'll break. You don't want that to happen, because when you're rice, you can consume it another 2-3 days and rice all over again, because they don't all ripen at the same time. So you don't want to damage the plants. So come in and take them over something like that and shave them this way, and they'll go into the boat. Now there's no rice on the stalks at this point. And then you alternate your sticks and come in this way. And just sort of that way. Once we gather the rice out of the beds, we have to bring it back to our homes or wherever, and sometimes we put it back into the water and let it soak. That gets rid of some of the small worms and bugs and other little insects that might be in there. We soak it for maybe 3 or 4 days, and then we take it out of the water again and spread it out on tarps, out on the lawns or out where it can dry, and we leave it there for a few days in the hot sun and rake it a little bit up every day just to make sure it dries rather evenly. Once we feel it's nice and dry, we then bring it up into the area where we're going to parch the rice. And we get a big old kettle similar to this one here, and we put in, maybe 10 or 12 handfuls of green rice, and with a little light fire underneath, or just enough to keep this kettle warm, we gently stir the rice around in the kettle and just keep it moving so it doesn't scorch. And the parging, depending on what stage the rice is at and how dry it is, it might take 20 minutes to a half hour to parch a batch of rice. And once it's parched, it looks something like this, what I've got in a little pie plate here. You can see it's kind of a toasty golden brown, and that gives the rice a rather nutty flavor. It also helps to remove the chaff. It dries it right out, so the chaff comes off quite easily with a little bit of rubbing and so on. And so once we get the chaff off, we still have to take the rice down to a stage where it's ready for the pot. And you can just see how black it is, and there's still a few little bit of chaff left in there yet. So before it goes into the rice pudding or the soup or whatever you're going to make with the wild rice, you still have to go through and pick out a few little bits and pieces of chaff that might be left. So you have to handle rice quite a few times before you actually get it to the pot. In 1989, a number of Indian groups got together and with the Lakehead University and devised a study where they could go through some of these lakes in southern Ontario and test the bottoms to see whether they could support wild rice. And Rice Lake was one of the lakes that they tested. And tests indicated at Lakehead University that Rice Lake could once again support a pretty good stand of wild rice in certain areas. Since then, 3 or 4 of us have been getting together every year and collecting seed rice and putting it out on test plots in various locations on Rice Lake.
So it is like this.
They've got a little tail on them. They go down into the mud, they go down like that into the mud, and they work their way right down in.
To give you a new plant.
Yeah, new plant each year.
Each year we add a little bit of rice into those stands. We also found some existing rice there from the old original Rice Lake beds. So we're adding to those with Ardoc rice, which originally came from Rice Lake and was planted down there by our ancestors. So we're bringing some of that rice back into the lake again, and hopefully in a few years we'll have some viable stands of original Rice Lake rice growing in the lake. This is another area behind me here that you can see that we've done some test plots on. Is about a quarter mile up this small creek here. It has a very muddy bottom, and it seems to be growing okay there too. We need to add more seed though every year, and just gradually build those beds back up to where we can maybe once again harvest a little bit of rice here on Rice Lake. So that's our goal, is to bring some of these stands back for maybe for our own use, but also for improved wildlife habitat. It's excellent for ducks and muskrats and beavers, and it's just great for the whole ecosystem here on Rice Lake. So we're trying to bring that ecosystem back to this part of Northumberland County.